Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day is going fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me. Today for Hero Arts, we're going to create 3 projects using the My Monthly Hero Kit for December 2020. This month's kit did sell out, so this video is more for inspiration. But in the kit, you get your beautiful layering cloudy background, and then you get a couple layering sunshiny suns, and then sentiments are so inspirational. This is the last kit of the year, and I think it's perfect because you could be using it all next year, kind of spreading the sunshine and the hope for next year. Now the dies included in this month's kit, you get a beautiful cloudy circle window. You get this beautiful hope die set that's 2 pieces. You can layer them together to create the outline of the hope, and I have it upside down. But you also get, if you layer them together, you get the outline. Separate them, you can matte your sentiment on there. You get 4 ink cubes this month. They're all reactive, and they're beautiful colors. You get Early Dawn is the blue, yellow is Yellow Chartreuse, purple is Thistle, and then you get the pink that's Morning Mist. You also get some sparkly embossing powder that is just beautiful and perfect for your sunshinies. It's called Yellow Prisma. So that is the contents of the kit. We are going to jump in and make 3 projects. I do want to share with you the colors of these inks and how pretty they are. Since they are reactive, if you want to watercolor with them, you could do that. But the Early Dawn is a beautiful blue. Yellow it has a little green tone to it, that Yellow Chartreuse. The purple is Thistle again, and it's beautiful. And then you have a real pretty pink. It's a little bit of a toned down pink, so it's like a rosy pink, I would say. Those are the colors in your kit this month. Now, I thought everybody's going to be used to colors, so you know I like to think outside the box. So I'm going to bring in a few of my own colors to create my own color palette to create my cards today, kind of going with a nautical theme. I know I wanted to use this beautiful blue, and I thought we would bring in some purple. We'll use the Thistle, but I wanted the next color to be a really dark color. So I went through my mini ink cubes and I found a blue reactive ink from a previous kit. It just says blue reactive, but it's like a real dark blue. So I think we're going to use this for our card. And then after we have that one, I thought we'd bring in a little bit of a teal color. This is Pool Party. So I think this is going to be a pretty color palette. So we're not going to use the pink or the yellow in the kit today, but I just wanted to share that with you. Mix up your colors, guys, because to create your cloudy background, it's just beautiful with those soft colors. Since it is a layering stamp, I'm bringing in my Misty. The layering for the cloudy background has 3 layers. So I'll start off with the most solid first layer. And I have a panel that's a Card Friends size, and what I'm going to do is stamp the top, and then I'm going to flip it around and stamp the bottom to create a full background for one of my cards. We'll start off by inking up this most solid color with our blue ink, the Early Dawn that came with a kit this month. I stamped it a few times just to get a solid impression, and then I'm going to flip up my panel, flip it around, and I used my tape runner to adhere my panel to my mini Misty here, so it stays in place without the magnet getting in the way. I'll do the same thing to the very top, and when I flip this around, guys, it kind of looked like an ocean. You could probably get away with creating an ocean scene with this too. Okay, we're going to move along to our second layer. Second layer, I'm using my tealish color. It's called Pool Party. And these are little mini ink cubes that came from previous Hero Arts kits, but I love the teal and the blue together. We'll do the same thing, just flip it around and do the other side. And then we're going to bring in our darker color. I thought about bringing in the purple, but changed my mind to the darker color. Just cleaning off my stamp, taking our third layering die here. And they're pretty easy to line up. I don't think there's no if you make a mistake, you won't be able to tell, because there is some white areas in your background that stand out. So if you go a little too high or too low, it doesn't matter, which makes it really nice, because it doesn't have to be perfect. How about that? I'm stamping my darkest blue reactive ink here, and I love the way this turned out. So that will be one background panel. I'm going to do one more background panel for one of my second card today, or maybe my third. But this time we're going to switch up the colors a bit. So we'll set this aside, let that dry, and I'm bringing in another piece of white cardstock. I'm lowering it just a little bit because this one's going to go behind our cloudy window. Once that's adhered, I'm going to take, I was going to do a blue again, but then changed my mind. I thought we'd use the thistle for this background. So our first layer of our cloudy background, I'm going to add the thistle. You can see how juicy these ink pads are. I'm going to stamp it a few times, just so it's nice and solid, and then we'll line up our second layer. The second layer we're going to use, I'm thinking we're going to go for the blue. So second layer we're using the Early Dawn, just inking up our cloudy background, stamping that a few times, and then we have our third layer. Third layer I'm going to go for, I thought about using my blue reactive, the dark blue, and I think it's going to work out good. So that's the color I used. I thought about it and I used it. Sometimes I don't remember what the colors that I used. Okay, we're going to stamp this, and those are my two backgrounds. I have an idea for one of my cards that's pretty simple, so we're not going to need a background for that. Okay, we're going to clean up our area a little bit, and we're going to do a little bit of die cutting. I'm taking the Hope die. Now if you just take the Hope and put it on your panel and die cut it out, it will die cut out inside your panel, so it'll be one piece. But if you take the outline, it's gonna basically create an outline of your Hope. You'll see here in a minute what I mean. Now when I die cut this out, I wanted the negative outline of my sentiment to be on the top and the bottom of this panel. And when I did that, some of the cloudy sky was hitting my sun rays, and I wasn't very fond of that, so I ended up die cutting out a piece of white cardstock to go with it, just so I could see the difference, because we're going to do a little bit of inlaying, pop-up inlaying actually. So this is what it looks like. You see it's all one piece when you layer it together. We're going to end up trimming that panel in the background later on, but you can see the blue from the cloudy sky and was hitting my sun rays. I'm going to go ahead and take this Hope and die cut it out with white cardstock. Okay, I'm thinking I like the white a lot better against that busy background, since we have a full colorful background. So we'll just set the one that we die cut out originally, set it aside. Next I'm going to take some dark blue cardstock. This is nautical. It's a Hero Hue cardstock, and if you guys haven't tried the Hero Arts cardstock, you will love it because of the weight. It's a nice heavy weight. I'll link the cardstock that I used today down below, but it's called Nautical, and I die cut out a background for my Hope sentiment. Now I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and we're going to trim basically a 1/4 inch off the left, right, top, and bottom. So we're going to create a panel that's 4 inches by 5 1/4 separated between, but we have the outline of the Hope on the top and the bottom of each one of these pieces. I also die cut out 3 of my clouds, and they're a nice size cloud, which makes it really nice. Okay, next we're going to bring in our card base. I created a card base with that same dark blue nautical cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this piece to the very top, and when you do this you want to make sure that it's the right side up, because I have my Hope upside down. I was trying to light it up and it wasn't working, so we're going to take this carefully up and put this on the bottom. This way we can inlay, and it does a great job. We'll add our background Hope, and then I'm going to take the top piece and add that to the very top. This way they're evenly spaced on my card front panel. We're going to remove our nautical colored background, and I'm just going to use my tape runner to adhere my Hope sentiment. You guys can see how beautiful this is. It's kind of got the sun ray from the O just bursting out. This would be really pretty if you guys like doing inlaying, doing a real pretty inlay with those back pieces. I know Hero Arts blog has lots of, shop has lots of inspirational projects with this, but there's my Hope. Okay, now I want to do something special with the O in the center. So what we're going to do is do a little heat embossing using that yellow Prisma embossing powder. I'm just taking a piece of white cardstock, adding my Versamark ink pad to it, bringing in some scratch paper. We're going to go over it with our yellow Prisma embossing powder. This has it's a real bright yellow, but it has some iridescent sparkle to it. It's just stunning. So I thought we would add some sparkle to a background. I'm going to use my heat gun and melt it. We're going to kind of create our own glitter cardstock. Once this is melted, I'm going to take the Hope die. I'm trying to show you the sparkle in there. It has that real beautiful sparkle. I just need the sunshine in here, so I'm lining it up, making sure that the embossed area. Now, when I did this, the letters from the Hope stuck inside my die, and actually that was a good thing, because all I had to do was flip over the die, and then I'm bringing in some very small foam squares. I'm going to pop one on each one of the sections of that sunshine. I believe there's like 5 or 6 sections, and it just made it easier, because once I remove the release paper, I just take the die, line it up over my die cut sentiment, and then I can pop that sunshine down and it sticks. You just lift it and it's already in place. You don't have to fuss with anything, no tweezers, but you have dimension, you can see here. So it was a good thing. I think if you were to make your own embossing cardstock like I did, it would stick inside your die, and it just makes it easy to line up. Okay, I'm going to add foam squares behind my Hope. Add that in the center so it's popped up, and then I also stamped the sentiment from the sentiments in the stamp set. If I could speak right, I need more copy. I stamped the one that says "Sending you a little," so my sentiment will read "Sending you a little Hope." And instead of doing a block cut, rectangle cut for my sentiment, I thought we would go use the scissors and fuss to cut the outline of it. And I like the way it turned out. Now my background's pretty busy, but I'm going to make it a little busier. I'm going to bring in my Hero Arts Intense black ink and just stamp a few of the bird clusters on the top and then the bottom. Just filling in some open areas and make it looking a little bit more full. And I love it. The Hope is not busy at all, but that background is really busy, and I love the way this turned out. I'm going to actually tone it down just a little bit with a few clouds. I'm going to trim off this end, pop it up, and put it on the end of my panel, and then do the same with the bottom 2 clouds. Just trim off the excess, and then that finishes off that card. I think that sparkly embossed sun in the middle just makes it stand out, and I love the way this looks. If you want to see still shots, guys, visit my blog. Still shots, you can see all the details in there. Okay, for my second card, we're not going to use a background, but I do want to use the layering sun in the stamp set. It is huge, guys. I'm going to take the largest sun rays here, ink up, and I'm using my pumpkin pie ink cube, which I think is pretty dry. So I tried to see if I had any extra ink, if it was my ink pad or if it just wasn't adhering to my stamped image. But I stamped it on the top. I'm inking it up again, and I'm going to flip over my sun, stamp it on the bottom. So we're going to create a complete circle. Just want to line up the top and the bottom so they meet, and it's stamped beautifully. I think pumpkin pie was a nice color for that. Okay, next, and I'm just stamping on some white cardstock. I'm inking up my smaller sun rays with my Versamark ink, and then I did treat my paper with my anti-static powder tool. I'm going to stamp over the center twice, one right side up, one upside down, to again create a complete circle. We're going to create a huge sunshine here. After we stamp the second smaller rays, I'm going to go over it with my yellow Prisma embossing powder, give our little rays some sparkle. Now, you can barely see this in the end project, the sparkle, but there is some peeking out, and I was happy with the way that this looked. I'm going to go ahead and melt this embossing powder, and you can see what our sun rays kind of, actually we're looking at it now, it kind of looks like an iris of an eye. Okay, I'm going to take a circle die cut out my sunshine, and then I'm adhering a piece of yellow cardstock. This is Hero Art Canary cardstock. I'm adhering it to my card front, And I did die cut out a smaller circle with the same canary cardstock and stamped the sentiment that says it's a new day. And then I popped it up and placed it in the center of my sun here. I die cut out a slightly larger circle with a darker yellow cardstock. This is mustard, and I matted them together. I'm going to go ahead and adhere my sun to my card base. It's a pretty easy card, but I think it just says happy cheery day. I'm adhering, offsetting it, then I'll open up my card and trim off the excess. Okay, once we have this done, I thought we have a little bit of sparkle peeking out of our sentiment area, but I wanted more sparkle. So I'm bringing in my diamond stickles, and we are going over those rays, just adding lots of sparkles. And when it dries, the sun rays on here are so fine and pretty. It's a very clean and very, very simple card, but I just love the way it turned out. And I think if you try this, you guys will love it too. But I added some sparkle around the rest of the sun rays, and that finishes off card number 2. For my final card, I didn't like the thistle that we used in our last background, so we're going to redo our background with the layering stamps once more. So I'm taking the most solid layer, I'm lining it up just below the top of my panel. Again, this is going to go behind my cloud window, and we're going to start off by stamping our background and making it a dark one. I'm going to use that blue reactive ink, and I'm going to stamp it about 3 times to make it very intense dark blue. And it looks almost like a cobalt blue right now, but it ends up being a very dark nautical blue, almost the same color as our cardstock that we're going to use. After we have our first layer stamped, I'm going to go in with my Early Dawn ink. It's the blue one. We'll stamp that, and then I'm going to take the teal color that I brought in from my stash. It's the Pool Party, and I'm going to stamp our 3rd layer with that teal. So we have 3 different basically shades of blue, and I was happier with this effect. Now we have a little bit of an open area and our window's on the larger side, so what we're going to do is take my ink blending tool, and keeping with that Pool Party ink, I'm going to dab it, and then I'm going to just add a little bit of color just under the very bottom white area. So when we add this panel behind our window, it's full color. And I didn't want it to be too intense because we're going to do a little heat embossing, and I wanted my sun to stand out. But I'm happy with this color. Next, I'm going to bring in some white cardstock, and we're going to die cut out our window. This is slightly smaller than my card front panel size, so it's 4 inches by 5 1/4. And we have our window a little bit more towards the top. The nice thing about this die is you can have the clouds on top, or you can have the clouds on the bottom. And so I decided to put the clouds on the top here. I put it in my MISTI, and I was planning on stamping the sunshine in my MISTI, but you don't really have to do this. I'm just marking the bottom where I want to stamp the center of my sunshine with a pencil, and then I'll ink up my sunshine center with my Versamark ink pad, and then making sure you treat your paper with your anti-static powder tool. You don't want that yellow embossing powder everywhere. I'm going to do this in 2 steps because with Versamark you can't really see where you're stamping, and so I wanted to make sure I was centered with my sunshine. So I'll stamp the center first, add the yellow Prisma embossing powder. I'll use my heat gun and we'll melt it so it's nice and sparkly. And then I did warp my paper a little bit, and I was worried about stamping my 2nd layer with the rays, but it stamped beautifully. I'll ink this up with my Versamark ink. Stamp this right over our sunshine center. So we're going to have a little sunshine peeking out of our window here. Line it up with that circle edge, and then I'm going to go over this with my yellow embossing powder, and we'll go ahead and melt this as well. So our sunshiny is nice and sparkly. Okay, once that's done, I'm going to stamp our sentiment. Now the sentiment I chose for this one, they're all so uplifting. It says, "Wishing you a better tomorrow." I thought that was beautiful. And we're going to stamp with our Early Dawn blue ink that came with the kit first, and then I want to add a little bit of a gradient with my blue reactive ink that I brought in from my stash. It's the darker blue. I'm going to add a little bit of that dark blue to the very bottom of the sentiment. And then we're going to stamp on the very bottom of our window panel. We're going to stamp it to the left, And I'm out of view. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to scoot it up to show you what it looked like. But it's such a pretty color combo. Okay, once we have that stamped, we can flip over our panel and add foam adhesive behind it. Give our window a little bit of dimension. If you want to make this a shaker, you could at this point. But I'm just going to leave it as a window. I make sure it's centered. And then I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm wiping away my embossing powder powder tool here. I want to add my panel, and so our window is good to go. We'll flip it over. I'm going to add tape behind it and add this to our white card base, our white top folding card base here. Once we have this centered, I'm going to die cut out a cloud from white cardstock, just one of them. And I thought since our sentiment is off to the left, we'll put the cloud off to the right here, inside the window. And after we have this done, I thought we just needed something else. So I went through my gems and I found some teardrop shaped gems. And I'm going to add a few right next to the sentiment and then a few just above my cloud that we adhered. I think this was just a nice finishing touch, especially to go with the sentiment. Wishing you a better tomorrow. I think it just worked out pretty with those raindrops there. But that one more thing I'm going to do with this card, I found some navy and white baker's twine that I had in my stash. I'm just going to add it to the very top of my card and then tie a bow off to the left, just so we have a little, keeping with the kind of nautical theme. We'll add this. I do need to trim this tail a little bit more. And that finishes off card number 3. And the sun's really sparkly, which makes it really nice. So here's all 3 cards that I made today with the Hero Arts, my monthly hero kit for December. I think this is the perfect way to end the year. And I'm looking forward to next year's kit. I think it's going to be just as fabulous. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day. If you'd like to see still shots again, they're over on my blog and the links down below. Thanks. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.